Welcome to Pages and Pods. In this episode, we're going to trace the evolution of the name and meaning of Moloch. Over time, he's been called a god, a demon, even a fallen angel. But today, most scholars agree Moloch wasn't a being at all. He was a ritual, a horrifying ritual of child sacrifice offered to a local deity, something almost too brutal to imagine. This type of sacrifice was notoriously practiced by the Carthaginians. Some say it was to Baal, others say Kronos. Rome eventually put a stop to it after conquering Carthage in 146 BCE. It also shows up closer to home in the Hebrew Bible. The Ammonites, neighbors to ancient Israel, offered children to Baal, and some Jewish clans living near the Ammonite border got pulled into it. That's how we even know about Moloch in the first place, through the fiery condemnations of Moses and the prophets. The earliest mention comes in Leviticus, around 1200 BCE, where the practice is condemned outright. Then, around 1000 BCE, we see it again in 1 Kings. This time, King Solomon is rebuked for building a shrine, a bama, to Moloch. It's the only place in the Torah where Moloch is treated like a god, not just a ritual. That small detail still fuels the debate. Was Moloch a deity, or just a name for the sacrifice itself? But it's under King Ahaz, one of Israel's weakest kings, that the Moloch is openly practiced on the fringes of Israel. He allowed it. He didn't stop it. His son Hezekiah did stop it during his reign. He completely banned it, but then it came back under his son Manasseh and grandson Ammon. So, from about 735 to 623 BCE, give or take 20 years under Hezekiah, Moloch was practiced along the borders of Israel. Then came King Josiah. According to 2 Kings 23:10, Josiah tore it all down. The idols, the tophets, the sacrificial fire pits, all of it gone. Josiah became king at 8 years old. His reforms began in his 20s. And by 623 BCE, the infamous Tophet in the valley of Ben Hinnom was destroyed. Moloch was banished. Later texts still mention him. Amos, for example, and in the New Testament, the Acts of the Apostles called a ritual an abomination. But by then, Moloch was already fading into memory. Still, archaeology tells another story. We have physical evidence of child sacrifice in the Levant going back to the 8th century BCE, and classical writers were horrified by what they saw. Platartus, in the 3rd century BCE, describes a bronze statue, arms outstretched over a burning brazier, as children were consumed by fire. Diodorus Siculus, in the 1st century BCE, echoes the same. A sloped bronze image where children would roll down into a pit of flames. Even under Roman rule, child sacrifice persisted. Plutarch in the 2nd century CE says the Carthaginians kept doing it. Tertullian, writing not long after, confirms it. And then, centuries later, Jewish tradition fills in the gaps. In the 12th century, the Rabbi Rashi, commenting on Jeremiah 7:31, says, Tophet is Moloch. It was made of brass. They heated it from below. The child was placed in its glowing hands and burned alive. And to drown out the screams, the priest beat drums so the father couldn't hear, so the heart wouldn't break. Another tradition from the Yalkut of Rabbi Simeon says, the idol was hollow, divided into 7 chambers, flower, birds, livestock, and in the final chamber, a child, all burned together. That was Moloch. Now, these ancient descriptions of the idol, the burning hands, the drums, don't exactly match what we find near the Ammonite border. There, according to Maimonides, children weren't always burned alive. They instead were forced to walk across paths of fire. Most died. But not all. Still the horror is clear. Those medieval rabbinic descriptions might be exaggerated, but they accurately describe the rituals used in Carthage, not Israel. Then, for hundreds of years, silence. Moloch disappears from the records until 1667. That's when John Milton brings him back in Paradise Lost. There, Moloch becomes a demon, one of the most violent and bloodthirsty of all the fallen angels. He represented irrational rage, blind violence, blood sacrifice. A century later, the German writer Friedrich Gottlieb Klopstock features Moloch in Der Messias, the Messiah. Again, he's a fallen angel, this time a symbol of paganism and human cruelty. Then in 1862, Gustav Flaubert resurrects him again in Salammbô. Moloch returns as the god of Carthage, a symbol of religious extremism, decadence, and blind fanaticism. In 1896, Russian author Alexander Kuprin uses Moloch as a metaphor. In his novella Moloch, capitalism itself becomes the demon. Society, says, sacrifices workers to the machinery of profit, just like the children to the idol. The philosopher Bertrand Russell saw it coming. In his 1903 essay, A Free Man's Worship, he writes, "The religion of Moloch is the cringing submission of the slave, who dare not even think that his master deserves no adulation." That's the new Moloch. Then comes cinema. In 1914, the Italian epic Cambaria features Moloch in one of film's earliest shock sequences. A young girl is about to be sacrificed to the god until slaves intervene. The director Giovanni Pastrone had a statue built to match those ancient descriptions. The statue still exists. You can see it in the National Museum of Cinema in Turin, Italy. Stranger still, the same statue was replicated and placed at the entrance of the Roman Colosseum for a 2019 to 2020 exhibition called Carthago, the Immortal Myth. Even stranger, the Vatican approved it. But back to archaeology. In 1921, German scholar Otto Eistfeld excavated Carthage, discovered Tophet inscriptions. They didn't refer to a god, they referred to a ritual. That was the key breakthrough. Moloch was not a deity, it was the sacrifice itself. Then came Metropolis. In Fritz Lang's 1927 film, the main character Frieder has a vision. He sees the giant machine of the city as a modern temple to Moloch, devouring workers like fuel. In 1997, a big jump forward, he appears again in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The episode is called I, Robot, Eugene. Moloch becomes a sentient force in cyberspace, possessing students through the internet. He even got a robot body, but Buffy destroys it. In 2003, Polish laptop game Neuroshima, Moloch is reborn again, this time as a vast, self-aware military AI, cold, efficient, and inhuman. The modern Moloch is no longer fire and drums, he's a network, servers, and code. He shows up again in movies like Jacob's Ladder in 2005, where he appears as a cannibal. He's a demon in Dan Brown's Lost Symbol. He's the bringer of the end of times in Sleepy Hollow. He's the most violent demon in hell in the manga You're Being Summoned, Azazel. Even Mortal Kombat can't resist him. But here's what I find haunting. Moloch has merged with technology, with the internet, with power. He's taken on the traits of Ahriman, the cold spirit of intellect without love. But why? Because Moloch isn't about sacrificing yourself. It's about sacrificing someone else, your child, your worker, your future, for your own gain. That same dynamic plays out in modern capitalism. Today, he's not just in factories, he's in algorithms and ads and distractions. We sacrifice our attention, our time, our dreams to endless streams of entertainment. And no one captured that dissent more viscerally than Allen Ginsberg in his 1956 poem, Howl. Moloch, Moloch, nightmare of Moloch, Moloch the loveless, mental Moloch, Moloch whose mind is pure machinery, Moloch whose blood is running money, Moloch whose breast is a cannibal dynamo. They broke their backs, lifting Moloch to heaven. Pavements, trees, radios, tons, lifting the city to heaven, which exists and is everywhere around us. Moloch didn't die in 623 BCE. We just gave him better tools. In the next episode, I'll explore how historians and biblical scholars have misunderstood Moloch and how some modern narratives about ancient Israel have gone completely off track. Until then, click like to help this channel stay alive in the electronic currents of the internet, and subscribe if you haven't already. And most importantly, be aware of your choices and the sacrifices you make for them.